Hello everybody, welcome to Nostalgia Goggles. I'm Chris, also known as Retro Gaming Nerd, and today, this episode's all for me. With that being said, we're going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and if it's worth your time. I am a giant Zelda fan. This is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, so of course I had to talk about the game where you can play as Zelda. So, let's get right into it. So the story of Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is, you play as Link, at least at the beginning. Princess Zelda has been captured by a monster that seems to be Ganon, and you have to beat him to rescue her. After the monster that seems to be Ganon is defeated, a rift opens up and swallows both Ganon and Link, but not before Link helps Zelda free. From this point on, you play as Zelda, and you escape and return to the castle, only for another rift to open up and swallow your father and his royal advisors. Zelda ends up getting blamed for the rift, and is thrown in the dungeon, and is helped out by a little being named Tri. Together, with Tri, Zelda escapes and sets out on a journey to close the rifts, save Link and her father, and her kingdom. So with all that being said, I really like the story that this game gives. I didn't give every single thing that happens, I never do, but I absolutely do enjoy what this game's story and narrative has brought, and it's very interesting to see where this game is going to place on the timeline, if it even does, because this game does a lot of things that are unique, new, and just wildly interesting for the franchise. And the thing I love the most about this game is it does feel like it could fit within the timeline. It feels like they took this one seriously. They could have treated this one like a spin-off, but instead it feels like it's a game that belongs in the Zelda canon, and I enjoy that. This game didn't have to do that. This game didn't have to have the story that it did and have to take the choices that it did, but I do enjoy that it did that. So all in all, realistically, I like the story. I like where it goes. But none of that really matters if the gameplay isn't all there. So with that being said, let's move on to the gameplay. In The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, you play as Zelda. Early in the game, Zelda is given the Tri-Rod, which allows her to push and pull objects, and most importantly, make copies called Echoes. Echoes can make all kinds of things, like monsters, items, and other objects that help you traverse the land, and solve puzzles and handle enemies. Now this game doesn't leave you without a sword. You eventually get a sword, a bow, and bombs from Link's Echoes. This allows you to fight alongside your Echoes for a limited amount of time, creating a unique Zelda experience. This game also brings back traditional dungeons, which feels like a more fleshed out experience than other Zelda games. I feel like what fleshes out the dungeons is the Echoes, coming at the traditional Zelda concept with a new approach. As an older person that grew up with Zelda Link's Awakening and Oracle of Ages, I haven't been dissatisfied with the direction Zelda has been going in as of late. I know other Zelda fans have, but it's nice to know that the classic Zelda formula isn't dead. This game isn't just based solely in classic Zelda. It does take notes from the open world Zelda games, allowing you to explore and complete the game as you please. As long as you have the Echoes, you can pretty much do whatever you want, within reason. The game doesn't feel impossible, and definitely caters to your choice as the player. This game includes accessories, which you can equip to Zelda, giving her different abilities and perks, kind of like the rings in the Oracle of Ages games. Once again, I'm reaching, but I'm looking for comparisons within the Zelda universe. The only other really new thing that I have to mention is smoothies, which can offer stat buffs and heal or create other helpful effects. There's also automatons in this game, but that goes more into spoiler territory. Even when you have learned how to play the game, you'll be constantly learning new things. There are many things to do in this game, but that just gets into the territory of playing the game and making these discoveries in Hyrule yourself. I feel like Echoes of Wisdom is a concept that many people are interested in, and would be really cool if they expanded upon this in other Zelda games within the future. With that being said though, let's move on to the presentation. The presentation of Echoes of Wisdom is similar to Link's Awakening, which makes sense since it was developed by the same combination of Grizzo and Nintendo. Outside of that, I feel like this game takes after the handheld games like the Oracle games and Minish Cap, like adding newer concepts like the Goron Rock Roast and both forms of Zoras, and putting them in a 2D space. This game integrates all forms of Zelda, which is great for all Zelda fans, except for the CDI games, unless you count Zelda using a wand as a reference to the CDI games, but I feel like that's a big stretch. Anyways, the soundtrack itself is done very well, sitting with the greats of the Zelda soundtracks. This game looks great, aside from the frame rate issues that definitely shows the Switch's age. I'm not normally someone that would complain about this, but I do feel like it is definitely noticeable. It seems that the frame rate definitely fixes itself on multiple occasions, but I do think it's definitely something that shows the limitations of the Switch. This has happened in Link's Awakening, but both games feel odd to have this kind of a frame rate issue, especially for what they are. But outside all of that, I think that this game does present itself very well. With that being said though, let's move on to the accessibility. So to get right down to it, this game is still on the market, so there's no real reason for this segment. You can probably pick it up at Best Buy, if Best Buy still sells games, GameStop, or any place where video games are sold, even Amazon is included. So there's no real reason for the segment, as I said before, but you can definitely pick those up there. The only one that's really debatable is Best Buy, because I know that they stopped selling them in store, or they said they're going to soon. But even then, that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother thing. With that being said, though, let's move on to the goods and the bads. There is so much good with this game, especially if you're a Zelda fan, from bringing back traditional dungeons, which I don't mind their absence in the open-air Zelda games, but to have them here is super nice, especially for how well they're done, to integrating Zelda lore and kind of answering questions about the Zora. That's one that was interesting for me. I saw that in the trailer and I was super excited, because both Zora have not really been in the same space. Like, in some games they have, but like, it's very interesting to see that here. It's very interesting to see older concepts and the very integrated world that this one gives. I feel like Zelda's been trying to have an integrated world. After all, Breath of the Wild has like the Rito, the Zora, and whatever, but this one feels like it's trying to integrate more of like the classic aspects as well. Yes, the Zora have showed up in the Oracle games, but it's interesting to see them here with the older Link to the Past style, alongside the Ocarina of Time Zora, to see the two together. And I think that that's something that's really cool for somebody like me that likes Zelda. I like the fact that Zelda has to rely on wisdom within this game, or technically you have to rely on your wisdom. Yes, you can definitely brute force the game. You can use the sword, the bow, the bomb, whatever. You can definitely use those, but them having a time limit feels great. But it also doesn't feel like you're trapped either. It feels like you can play the game however you want. I absolutely enjoy the echoes. They're super fun. I absolutely enjoy the still world. Being very different and unique from the other Dark Worlds. I know that a lot of people are going to say that it's just another Dark World, but the Dark World in the Zelda series are very different than what this is. I feel like this is close, and I feel like you can have some comparisons, but it's more of like a shattered world versus it being a mirrored Dark World. So I feel like that the still world is different enough. I absolutely enjoy Tri. I was even sad at the ending to see them go. It's such a really cool concept alongside the Tri-Rod just being really, really cool. I think that, honestly, when I first saw this game, one of my biggest fears is the fact that you won't have a sword, but in reality, I completely got over it. The creativity and the wisdom that goes into playing this game is awesome and almost outstanding. I love almost everything that this game did from a gameplay aspect, even a story aspect. I am put in awe. This could have just been another Ganon bad guy game, or hey, we're going to try to revive Ganon game. Spoilers be damned, this isn't one of those games. This one introduces something new. And that's cool because, yes, Ganon's in this game, but they're not the antagonist. And I think that that's super wise. It's super cool. And it's interesting because no matter what, it always kind of sometimes comes down to Ganon to a degree. Like, there is very few games where it's not. So it's interesting that this one didn't do that. And I'm just super happy that this game altogether turned out as well as it did. The art style is great. The music is great. This game is great. And I'm super excited for the direction that this game may give us in the future. With that being said, though, let's move on to the bads. I feel like we're at one of these impasses again where I can give a technical bad, but I feel like it comes down to not understanding what the game is, right? I feel like you can give, like, opinions on what is bad. You know, if you're somebody that's not used to the Zelda formulas, or if you're somebody that wants Zelda to be a specific way, like let's say you wanted Zelda to have a sword, I feel like that could be something that you give. I feel like you can be upset about the frame rate, which is definitely valid. We definitely need to move on from the Switch. But I feel like, one, I'm the wrong person. I love Zelda too much. There isn't anything within this game that I feel like is objectively bad. There is nothing to me that I do not enjoy about this game, because in reality, this game already is a kind of iffy concept, right? When you say, hey, we're going to do a Zelda game without a heavy use of a sword, like, we're going to limit it, I feel like that can scare some people away from this game, because Zelda is traditionally, yes, a puzzle game, but you definitely have more reliable, argumentatively more reliable source of combat, where this game kind of takes that away. It doesn't make it bad, but, you know, it's interesting. This game already is kind of a scary concept as a game already, because you aren't doing traditional Zelda things in a traditional Zelda space. So I could say that, but I don't feel like that's fair. I can say that some of the echoes don't work as they should. but they still do work, right? You just have to fiddle with it. Nothing bad. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see a real issue within this game. It's kind of a Metroid issue that I've had in the series, of where I can bring up a lot of things that are nitpicky or things that I can like talk about from an outsider perspective, but in reality, if you're picking up this game, you probably know somewhat about Zelda, or it's something that you won't have an issue with big enough. You know, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this game except for the frame rate. So with that being said, let's move on to the final thoughts, which I think is obvious. So, is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom worth your time? Well, yeah, I think it is. I think that this is a really, really great entry for at least the Zelda franchise, and it's also a really good step in the right direction for the first Zelda game. And what I mean by that is, I mean first Zelda playable game. Let's be real here, we're not talking about the CDI games. Nintendo doesn't talk about the CDI games, so I'm just not even gonna act like that's viable. I've said it multiple times in the episode, but let's be honest here. You know we're not talking about those, right? Okay, so this is the first time that we've got to play Zelda, and I think they did an amazing job by embodying the idea of wisdom and many other things all together. I think this game did a really great job, and as an older person that likes the Zelda franchise, it's really nice to see them coming back to the original Zelda styling in this kind of a way. It's, in truth, you can only do so much. You can only do so much with the classic Zelda formula. So it is nice, you know, to have all this other kind of, you know, stuff along with it, with the echoes and all that stuff and yada yada. Either way, I don't want to overly talk. All I want to say is this game is great. And with that being said, if you've played this game, what is one of your favorite aspects of this game? Or is there something you don't like about this game? Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time here on Nostalgia Goggles. Bye!